Thanks for tuning in to My Valley, His Victory, hosted by me, Mackenzie Smith, where I interview Christians who love the outdoors and have walked through valleys in their lives. In a world of highlight reels and surface-level relationships, we all have faced hardships. I believe our experiences can be encouraging to others if we have the courage to be vulnerable. 2 Corinthians 1 says, "The Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God." My goal is to inspire you to come to the Creator through His creation and connect you with Christians who have been through similar experiences. I pray that this podcast encourages you if you are in a valley and pushes you to share how God has turned your past valley into His victory. On today's episode of My Valley, His Victory, we have Rachel Zupke. She is a wife, homeschool mom of 3, high school coach, hiker, and mountain climber. Several years ago, she connected the dots and saw that God had given her a passion for helping people do hard things outside. She personally embraces and lives by the values of challenge, hospitality, seeking and sharing knowledge and wisdom, and encouraging others to join her as we revel in the creation God so generously made for us. She loves the preparation that is physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually required for safe and fulfilling adventure, and it brings her joy to hike and climb with others. The Lord has shown her His love in so many ways through her efforts to journey in the wilderness. If you hike or climb together, she's always good for a story of His faithfulness, a great cup of coffee at a viewpoint, and a .5 summit pic to remember that adventure by. Thanks so much for being with us today, Rachel.
Thanks for having me, Kenzie.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, wait, 0.5, what does that mean? And then I remembered the selfie, of course, duh. I was like, am I saying that right? And then immediately it clicked.
Well, and then it's funny because like I talk about enjoying teaching people things. One of the gals that I've climbed with several times now taught me that. And I started using it in coaching for attendance pictures. And my athletes thought it was so cool. And I was like, no. The person who's really cool is the gal who taught me. And it was just so fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like we have so much to jump into just in that bio alone, but I would love for you to just share with listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do and all the fun things.
I will start from where I'm at, which is my house. So at home, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I homeschool our 3 kids. I'm blessed to be home, which is super cool to get to grow up with them, which meant that like this last winter, all 4 of us, myself and my 3 kids, got to learn how to ski together, which like when you're 40 and learning to do a new thing is kind of wild, but also really, really fun because I don't feel like it's that often that you get to learn something, which feels intense. You don't get to learn something that intense with your kids usually because either it's maybe too dangerous for how old they are, but skiing is so accessible. And my kids this year were 8, 10, and 12. So that was, anyway, so homeschool mom, adventure mom, I guess.
Definitely adventure mom.
Adventure mom. And yeah, we like to go outside, whether it's small adventures like walking down. I live in Western Washington within blocks of a marina. So sometimes we just go to the waterfront. And sometimes we're up in the hills. I remember our first backpacking trip with the kids. The kids were almost 4, almost 6, almost 8. And we did a 27-mile loop over 3 days. And that was amazing, but also bonkers. But at the same time, we've developed our kids' expectations to be you adventure, whether it's difficult, easy, fun, hard, whatever, adventuring's worth the process. I'm also a high school coach. I am a head cross-country coach at the local public high school. And then I'm actually an assistant track and field coach at the rival public high school where I coach pole vaulters. Yeah, it's fun. But I just really enjoy helping, especially teenagers, do hard things outside. I also call myself a professional volunteer, where I volunteer with a local rock climbing ministry where they take middle schoolers out and they need people like me, who I'm not in charge, but I can spot safety issues when there are safety issues, and I can connect with middle schoolers pretty quickly, even if I've never met them before. And I'm not actually in the system. in the climbers triangle. They're climbing, they're belaying, they're backup belaying, and I'm just there to make sure that things happen safely, which is super fun. And so, I mean, I'll climb sometimes, I'll belay sometimes, but, and then probably the biggest ways that I'm a professional volunteer is through things called freedom hikes and climb for captives, which both are adventure philanthropy opportunities that support Atlas Free, which I know that you've had a couple people who have gotten to share about that. And the thing that I have that will probably be most of this conversation will be about Climb for Captives. And I don't know, 10 years ago, even 5, because I didn't go on my first mountain climb till 2020. If you had told me that I would climb a mountain at all, like a legit mountain, I'd be like, they're pretty to look at. I like hiking and looking at them. And then if you told me I would be leading climbs, that is even more wild to me. But that's God, right? Like we also rewind even further back. My husband and I were both high school teachers. He had 150 students. I had 150 students over our 5 class periods in a day. And we both were like, well, yeah, we're not having kids. These are our kids. This is who God has us to serve. And now here we are with 3 children of our own. So it's just, you zoom out and you're like, God, wait, what? And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's so true all the time. It's just like, wait, what? I'm doing what? Where? With who? What? Huh? Question mark?
Yes, exactly.
That's so cool. So kind of on your coaching things that you do, were you a runner? Were you in track and field? Like what drew you to that piece of coaching?
Yeah, I was a college basketball player, and in high school, I mean, I obviously basketball in high school, but I also went out for the cross country team to get in shape for basketball season. And it was awesome because my coach, like, unless I was playing bad, he didn't have a reason to pull me out because I was never tired. And I just fell in love with a sport where, I'm speaking of cross country, I fell in love with a sport where effort really pays off. There's obviously skill is important. Like you need to have good running form, but versus something like shooting a free throw, there's a very specific set of skills that you have to really hone in on and develop, or dribbling or whatever. Where in cross country, it's like, honestly, you try hard and you're going to get better at something. So I've remembered how much I loved that. And then I was coaching. I also loved track. I loved track in high school. And I loved the camaraderie and the culture of, it didn't matter if you were a thrower or a sprinter or a jumper or a distance runner. Like we were all doing cool stuff and hanging out at the track in the afternoon. Like doesn't get better than that in springtime in high school. So then fast forward to when I'm coaching basketball, which is my first love, right, in terms of sport. And we had moved towns and I had gotten a job coaching basketball here at the high school that I'm still coaching cross country at. And they needed a cross country coach, an assistant, excuse me. And I applied for it. And they were like, well, you're already on staff coaching something else. I was already the JV girls basketball coach. Like, we'd love to have you in another sport. And that turned into being the head cross country coach. And I just found how much I love the culture piece. I love pushing kids a smidge out of their comfort zone, but because they feel safe to do so based on how their coaches treat them, how their teammates talk to them, how everybody is trying to improve themselves, not like me versus you, but if we all are trying to get better versus how we were before, then we all get better. And that's really where true development comes from. And that's the thing, and this is my favorite part of it. When you graduate, you have real skills that you can use the rest of your life, that you can apply to anything that you do, whether it's academic or physical or whatever. And you learn that in cross country. So I love that about cross. I could talk for way longer about that, but that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. I think that it's cool that you originally had done cross country in high school just to like stay in shape for basketball. Like that's cool. And then like you said, just like there is a level of like effort. It's like, yes, there's skill, but there's also effort. And like, you can't really teach effort in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? And so definitely a good group of kids to get to be around and hang out with, and hopefully, encourage and inspire and all
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah.
So are you originally from Washington?
Yeah. I live about 30 minutes north of where I grew up.
Okay. So, you said you talked about climbing. We've talked a little bit about mountaineering and hiking and taking your kids on backpacking trips, all of those fun things. I know you said you just started mountaineering in the last 5 years, but did you grow up doing kind of all the rest of these things, or where did this love for adventure come from?
Definitely did not grow up doing that level of adventure. I grew up I affectionately call blue tarp camping, where it rains a lot. You need to have a blue tarp over the picnic table. I guess you have heard this term before.
No, I've never heard this before.
Yes.
And this is hilarious because it also is just Washington, right?
It's so Western Washington, like going out to Claylock on the ocean, and it's just like sideways rain and you're in a cloud the whole time, but it's still,
and you're camping in this weather.
Yes.
Why? Question mark.
Well, I was a kid. I wasn't making these decisions. I just went. Or then I think my first actual like hiking was with my grandpa, to tell you the truth, where he and my grandma lived in the Seattle area, but bought a cabin in Leavenworth, which is a very famous outdoor town here. Bought a cabin in Leavenworth in the early 70s, and they would go for like the whole summer. And I remember going there as a kid, and it was right on the river. I remember learning safe river behavior, super young, and just really treating the mountains with a sense of awe, but also a little bit of fear, like these could kill you. So I remember that from a really young age, which is something that I very much keep in mind. I mean, it's part of my bio, right? Like safe and fulfilling adventure, like safe. But I remember going on a hike with my grandpa to, Merritt Lake. And I don't have any specific memories, but I haven't ever forgotten that hike. And that's what he loved to do. And that maybe it was something I might like to do, but I just never had, because growing up, my summers were playing basketball and I was in tournaments, or I was like around and doing things. And like my parents really enjoy water skiing. And so we would go as a family and go to the Columbia River and do that for a week, which was great. But I found that I wasn't a sit by the river person. I was like, can I get in it? Can I do something cool in it? Like water skiing is great, but that's like a machine. But what can I do? I remember thinking things like that, where I'm like, what human powered thing? And then we were busy and moved to the next thing. But then my husband, I met him in college, and I remember we went on a backpacking trip with like a group of friends or whatever. We should have brought a blue tarp. It poured rain. We were at Pete Lake outside of Cle Elum, and I remember my roommate and she and I woke up in our tent, and there's like, they're called a bathtub floor. The bath was in the tent, not outside the tent. I was like, bless. So
Type 2 fun.
Just a little bit. But then we got married, and we celebrated our anniversaries until our oldest was born. And then her first birthday, because she was born near our anniversary. So for our first 5 years of anniversary celebrations, we went backpacking. And one of those backpacking trips, we scored the literal lottery and got 4 days and 3 nights in the Core of the Enchantments, which is, 1% of people get those now because of how many people apply. So yeah, that was a big part of it too, was that was something he really enjoyed. And he grew up blue tarp camping. And so our goal together was, how can we go camping more, but less in the rain? So instead of camping at the beach, we would go up high, or we would go on the other side of the Cascades. And it's just been, then with kids, it's like, why would we stop doing that?
Yeah.
And so it's just continuous.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I feel like we grew up very similarly in that, we played sports during the summer and we were just busy with that kind of stuff. And we would go out on like little adventures, but not this life that we're living now. But, it really wasn't until our adulthood or college that we really got into the outdoors. And it's cool that your husband, is kind of one of the propellers in that whole thing, and that you guys just also haven't stopped since you have had kids. I feel like I always say this, it goes one of two ways. Either you stop everything that you love to do, or you just figure out a way to bring them along. And so I always love the parents that just bring them along, because you do have to revolve your life somewhat around kids, but it doesn't have to fully revolve around them all the time.
And then they might learn that they love something or that they don't.
Yeah.
But I would love to be the person to introduce them and let them experience it in, gosh, I come back to the word safe all the time. I want them to come back, or I want them to experience in a safe way, and then be able to rewind and say, but did I like that or did I not like that? As opposed to, I was terrified for my life, so I will never do it again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that to be the hurdle. I want it to be, how did God make you? Did God make you inclined to enjoy this, or did God make you inclined to enjoy something else?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So the outdoors are great. We love getting out there. We love doing all the things. Talk to us a little bit about how the outdoors plays a role in your relationship with Christ.
Well, just because I've been so much more involved in the outdoors in the last now 6 years, I've always been in awe of his creation, the beauty, like when you talk like awe as in awesome, as in so big, can't comprehend it. I've always had that somehow within me. I've always loved hiking and looking at vistas, or backpacking to this, really great tent spot up high where I can look down. One of my favorite sunset hikes ever was with our friend Devin. And we went up to Beckler Peak with our pups, and it's kind of in the center of a bunch of ridge lines. And everywhere you look, there's some jagged ridgeline to look at as it like changes color as the sun goes down. And I've always been in spaces like that and thought, how do people see this and not believe in a creator? Like, this is incredible, and that he made this for us. And then I found mountaineering and discovered, I'm sure you have in your life, discovered something that your body feels good doing. And some of my friends and I joke about how if this was like a dating profile description, it would be enjoys walking up steep, icy slopes with sharp objects in the pitch dark. Like, why? Who likes that? I do. But it's true, and it sounds super crazy, but at the same time, when I'm in that space, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and there's just that quiet of crampon grabbing glacier, grabbing glacier, ice axe if I need it, like the every time. That rhythm and that sound and that peace is just, that to me connects me to the Lord. And it just, the whole one foot in front of the other piece that he invites us into, that is so tangible when you're climbing a mountain, because it's literally, you look at Mount Baker. I'm talking about Washington Mountains at the moment. You look at Mount Baker, you look at Mount Rainier, you look at Mount Adams or Mount St. or whatever, right? And you're like, they're so big, literally just one foot in front of the other. And how much of my life with the Lord has just been one foot in front of the other, just obey, just keep going, and I'll give you what you need when you get there. And I think the parallels of what that looks like in mountaineering and what that looks like in life, for me, it's also been that I can't do it alone, which is something that God has shown me through mountaineering, which you can totally climb peaks by yourself. But at the same time, there's a different level of safety that you have when you're with a trusted climbing partner. There's a different level of joy when you're sharing it with someone. There's a different level of challenge when you're sharing it with someone that maybe is not your favorite. I mean, so like stuff happens, right? And maybe it is someone you've really enjoyed climbing with, but something happens and you're like, whoa, how am I going to deal with this? And just like how God walks you through that. And for me personally, there have been people in my mountaineering journey who have spoken into my life in ways that other people can't, because they don't have that same experience. They don't have that same understanding. And it's not that those other people don't care about me or don't understand me, but there's something really unique about the challenge of the mountains and what it takes to make good decisions, what it takes to prepare well, that those people can uniquely speak into maybe lies you're believing about yourself, or things that maybe you should step into, but don't feel brave enough yet or don't feel qualified. And those are the people who rightfully can step in and say, you know, I actually see you XYZ, like doing these things, but you just need to do it. Like, what's holding you back? What? And then the fact that they're available and like give you the space to have those conversations, that's just like such a gift. And these are people that I've met because I've said yes to mountaineering, and how much I've learned about myself and how God has made me, and how much I've learned about the Lord and how to like, the word submit, like, yes, God, whoa. Like there are scenarios where you have no choice but to be like, okay, God, I literally can't do anything right now. What do I do? And yeah. But then like that's the thing. If I was alone in all of this, I would not have made great decisions, because I wouldn't have that like iron sharpening iron. I wouldn't have that encouragement and that accountability. And I think the most beautiful part of all of this is that my husband actually doesn't climb mountains. They're like not his thing. He'd climbed once. He did Baker with the team that I was on back in 2022. And I'm competitive. He is very competitive and I love it. And he's like, well, never climbing again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It was awesome. He goes, my summit percentage will always be better than yours because I'm 1 for 1.
I love that.
I'm like, and it like grated on me. I'm like, oh, he's right. But also, like, that's, for me, that's not the point of climbing. Like, yeah. But the competitor in me for a split second was like, but that's why I love him. Like, he's the one that encourages me to get out, to connect. I mean, I can't, what did I say? My kids are 8, 10, and 12. I started this 5, 6 years ago when they weren't 8, 10, and 12. I can't just leave for 3 days to climb mountains if my husband isn't supportive of it. Like, so that also has just been a beautiful gift of my husband saying, yeah, you love this, go. Like, so yeah. That's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love that you have that partner, and just that you've even like just had the awareness to notice these things about mountaineering and about climbing mountains. And I just feel like everything that you said was just so impactful, and just like that there really is something about getting out and doing hard things with other people that really mold and shape, who we are. And it's like, we can do it. You were right. Like, we can 100% go and hike mountains by ourselves, but like, you're not going to learn the same things. You're not going to have the same experience. You're going to learn to rely on yourself. And that's not very good either. So, man, so much good in that. I would love for you to share a specific story about a way in which maybe God has revealed himself to you or spoken to you through the outdoors.
This last about a week and a half ago.
Recent.
A week and a half ago, I got to climb Rainier with a team. And it was my first lead. Now, preface, leaders should never lead alone. So when I coach, I call myself the benevolent dictator, where I am in charge, but I love you. And you can give me your input, but I'm going to make a decision, or whatever the final decision is, which also means I'm responsible if something goes wrong. Or the buck stops with me, I should say. And same thing on climbs, not because someone needs to be responsible, but when there's a split-second decision that needs to be made, if it's a full-on democracy and all 8 people, we go around the circle and everybody gives their input, the decision needed to have been made like before that ever happened. And so when we climb, not that someone is a guide or in charge, but realistically, someone has to be able to make a quick decision. And who is that? And oftentimes that's me. And that ends up like if I'm with friends, if I'm with moms and kids, I just find myself in all these leadership roles. And I'm like, okay, God, I guess this is what I get to do. And that's actually a big coaching thing for me. I say get to instead of have to. And just that was a big, powerful thing. By the way, if you say get to, the corners of your mouth have to go up. They have, like your face changes, but if you say get, you have to turn your face up a little bit. So even if you weren't planning on smiling, too bad. Side note. So we had a Rainier climb, and this was with Climb for Captives. And we are a bunch of friends who believe that we can make a dent in the problem of sex trafficking. And so during our training, we fundraise and then we climb a mountain to celebrate, which sounds bonkers to most people. We think it's true. And so we climb mountains to celebrate. And we were going to meet as a team on a Saturday and head up to base camp on Sunday, climb either Monday morning or Tuesday morning based on the weather. Thankfully, we had permits all the way till Wednesday, so we had flexibility. And I woke up the Wednesday morning, 3 days before the Saturday, with a horrific migraine. And we're talking all the things that come with migraines, to the point where I did all my normal stuff and it didn't go away. And I was devastated because all I had in my brain was, if this is happening now, I'm not going to be able to prepare my body well for being at altitude, for climbing, for the exertion, for this, for that. Like I couldn't even hydrate well because I couldn't keep anything down. It was so bad. And I had to also cancel something that I love to do. I lead worship at our church on occasion, and I was scheduled to lead worship that night. And we were doing this new song for our church. It's Psalm 8, How Majestic Is Your Name by Shane and Shane. And that matters. So I'd been practicing this song, so excited. It went really well with the sermon that was going to be that night. And I had to cancel. And I was just like heartbroken because I love worshiping with our church, not like for our church, but with. And that was frustrating to me, but I knew that it was the right decision if I wanted to be ready to climb. And the migraine did not go away. It persisted, and I was really frustrated. I had a migraine all the way until we got to base camp Sunday night at Camp Muir. And I was ready to cry, just like, God, why? If I already have a headache, and most people get them as they go up in altitude, like, oh, am I just like prepared? Like, okay, you're already at a 6. Let's go from there. And it was just that disbelief of, I've done all this preparation. You've led me this far. Am I going to not get to leave base camp? Like, I was afraid I was going to wake up throwing up again, which is what happens to me when I get migraines. And I woke up at 11:45 p.m. because Alpine starts. We were also a little not worried, but like we were cognizant of the fact that we weren't sure how fast our team was going to move. So we did leave a little earlier than some teams do. And I woke up and I didn't have a hint of a headache. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I kind of was like, is the headache that bad that I just don't notice it? Because sometimes things are just so bad that you block them out. And as we went up in altitude, as we climbed, I actually love the DC route on Rainier. I love the like necessity of being quick through the ice box on the Ingram Glacier. I love the Cleaver itself. It's actually all rock right now. So it's like this fun, scrambly, you got to figure out where you're going. I mean, nothing above a like high class 3. And then you're on the upper mountain. And I'm taking all of it in as opposed to panicking about how I feel or worried about my teammates, where I'm checking in with my teammates still. I'm able to engage with them. I'm able to set a good pace. I mean, and I am the front rope. I'm in the front of the front rope. I am leading, and I'm leading without any feeling of panic, pain, nothing. It was glorious. And my kids, there's a series of books and shows on either like Christian martyrs or just famous Christians from the past. And one of them is Eric Liddell. And he was a famous Scottish runner who wouldn't run on Sundays and shared why. And one of his quotes is, I'm going to misquote him, but that was, God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. And that quote came to mind as I'm on the upper mountain, and I'm just one foot in front of the other, setting a pace that feels good to me, but also I can feel my team moving well with it. And I'm like, that's what he was talking about. Like this feels like what I was made to do. I was made to be on a mountain with other people who have a common goal, who want to experience God's creation. Oh, that song. We're back on the Cleaver. So this is before this part. And the sun's coming up on the horizon. And those, like, you know, those layers that are like, you've got the dark, but then you got the dark up here. And then it's like orange, pink, blue, kind of like just the weirdest ombre layers. And like a crescent moon in the sky. And the beginning of that song, of that Psalm 8 that I had practiced, is when I look at your heavens, the moon and stars you set in motion. Oh God, we sing all glory and honor. What is man that you are mindful? Like, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I've like chills right now. And I had been, I've known that song for a couple of years, but I had been practicing it. So it was like in my head right there. And like, I just look off to the right and that's what I see. And that comes to mind. And I actually felt so good that I sang it out loud as I'm ascending. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. I should not have felt that good. It's the first climb that I've ever been on where I truly experienced it, which was also a prayer request that I spoke aloud for the first time back in like March, where that was a prayer request of, I get so caught up in the details and the neuroticness of like being safe, doing it right, that I don't actually experience what God has for me until way, 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 way after. But then it's not even experiencing, it's reflecting on it. And I realized I'm experiencing, I'm in this. I've never gotten to do that before. And it was incredible. And God just, the ways that God has shown up for me in mountaineering have not been small by any means. And I could tell many relational stories that have come out of it, that the Lord has just shown me who he is by how other people in the mountaineering community have come alongside me, mentored me. But this particular experience, it should not have gone well. It shouldn't have. And like, what did I do to deserve such a gift? He chose to gift that to me. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I mean, like I look through pictures, like I remember that. I remember that. Like I was in it. And I got to do it with people who I've climbed with in the past in various ways on different mountains. And it truly was a group of friends who wanted to challenge themselves, experience what the Lord had, and celebrate that we made a difference in somebody's life, which truly was what happened on that climb. So,
yeah. I think it's so important about what you said about you can be so caught up in the moment and so neurotic and so, all of the things that you don't actually get to experience what you are doing. And you still get, some of that through reflecting, but it's not the same as being present and actually experiencing it. And wow, like what you said, what a gift, like to just be able to be fully present and to be fully just taking it all in and having the little nuggets of things that you had been listening to or reading or all those things just come to you in those moments and be able to soak it in. I think so often we don't truly experience much. And so, man, that I just can't imagine how special that moment was. And, just being able to experience God. I think so many of us, we study God, we pray to God, we, all of these things, but we don't actually get that like experience. And so it's just really sweet.
yeah. Well, and I think the thing about that is I've watched other people be able to do it for years. I've watched people be in the moment and experience it. And I'm like, I don't understand. I mean, they're safety oriented. They're doing a good job. They're making good decisions. Why? What is it about me that I'm like not putting this together?
But you prayed about it. Like
Yes.
you asked God, like, hey, I would really love for this,
Yeah.
And I think that's like, you went in there with a different level of intentionality, I think, even because you prayed about it beforehand.
Yeah. Well, and prayer was such at the forefront of this climb. I say unintentionally, which makes it sound like we didn't pray. But what's so funny is, yes, that prayer came out of a gathering of other people who lead hikes and climbs back in March. And every time I do a climb for captives, I recruit someone to pray, like specifically when I think our summit bid's going to be. Because I call it a summit bid because you're never guaranteed a summit. And so I've always done that. But this time I just felt this pull to put to words, because I much prefer the written word over the spoken word, because I can go back and I can fix it. And I'm a spreadsheets girl. And I made a little spreadsheet of prayers that, okay, I am praying these things ahead of time, or I'm praying these things on the mountain, but what if other people were praying with me or for me? But what about, like, it's not just me. And I think that's the thing about being a leader is that's great that you want it for yourself, but do you want it for those that are with you? And how do you bring people along? And how do you lead by example? And these were not like conscious, I'm going to lead by example and I'm going to ask you to have people pray for you. I mean, I'm going to ask you to recruit people to pray for you. And not because it makes me look like a good leader, but because I know how beneficial it is to me. And I know that it will benefit all of us. And it was wild because I thought everybody would have like two people who would say yes, yeah, I'll do that. And it turned into an email list of 70 people who said, yeah, I want to support this by praying. Like, wait, what? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it turned into this cute little document that, because I love formatting. Oh, when I say I love the like plan and the prep, yes. And the fonts have to all, I mean, it's bad. And, but what was neat is I did 10 days of prayer, and it was, this is a prayer request for this day for climbers. And this is a prayer request, pardon me, for this day for Atlas Free, because that's the heart. Like, our priorities when we climb is, number one, get home safely. Number two, have raised a bunch of money before our climb. And then the summit is priority 3. And so if in that second one, like, yes, we raise money, but we're also raising awareness. How beautiful that for as concentrated amount of time, 70 people were praying over these 10 specific prayer requests regarding what Atlas Free is doing around the world. Like that, I did not set out to do that. I simply set out to share requests so that people could pray for their climbers. And then God just kept on. Here's the one foot in front of the other. Hey, Rachel, why don't you add this piece? Hey, Rachel, why don't you send out a daily email so that it's right in front of people? Hey, this is Tuesdays. These are the 2 requests for Tuesday. Did you forget Monday? Here's Mondays. You can still pray for those. Like, and when I got back to church, right after we finished climbing, I was at church the Wednesday night. We had gotten off the mountain Tuesday night, and I had 3 different people. Those emails you sent, that was awesome, because I knew exactly what to pray for, when to pray for it. I didn't I couldn't forget.
Yeah.
I scheduled them all. I just knocked them out, scheduled them, didn't touch them after that. But like, God can use schedule, send, and Gmail. Like,
ain't that true?
So,
oh my goodness.
So and I'm not a great prayer. Like, I don't actually, that's probably one of the biggest things I struggle with. I prefer to pray via music. I prefer to pray by singing a psalm, which is probably why I love that song, Psalm 8. That whole Psalms, Hymns, and Spiritual Songs album is one of my favorites. That's how I prefer to pray. And so for God to slow me down enough to, okay, put to words what you need prayer for. How can I lavish my love on you? And for me to even be able to slow down enough to dream about that was so powerful. And I think the really, really cool thing is there's a gal at our church who's I think she's in her early 80s. Before she ever got the document, she had written down in her personal prayer journal things that she was praying for our team. And every single thing that she prayed for, He gave us. And she's never climbed a mountain. She's never going to climb a mountain. But she was on our team.
Yeah.
She was the 9th person. And I mean, I'm not a name it, claim it. Like, you can't, like, God's not some fairy godmother that you pray to and say, I want this, and then you get it. At the same time, the joy that I know it brings Him to love us. And sometimes that looks like giving us a perfect weather window. And sometimes that looks like incredible unity within a team. And we had that. Yeah. And how would she know to pray that, having never been on a mountain climbing team before? That's what the Lord said. This is what I'd like you to pray for Rachel's team. And I got to tell the team about her when I got to see her and share with her that you do know you're the 9th team member, right? Everyone on the team knows your name. And even just that piece, that connection, that family of God, like she's just this, I don't have any grandmas left, But to have someone like that who's so engaged and so wants to support me in prayer, like that is what the family of God is for, and how he set it up. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Here it is.
Yes. So good. Amen to that. We all need those people and the praying grandmas. We all need the praying grandmas. Okay, Rachel, switching gears into the title of this podcast, My Valley, His Victory. Would love for you to share about a valley or a season of wilderness you experienced and just what God maybe taught you or prepared you for in that season.
Ooh. I have always struggled with fear of failure. And my college basketball coach one time, he wore these penny loafers with really those like hard soles. And then he like stamps on the hardwood and you're like shaking to your core because you're like, oh, I hope he's not trying to get my attention. And I vividly remember being at a game and I didn't look at the basket. I should have looked at the basket. And he stomped his foot and yelled at me to shoot the ball. And I barely looked and I chucked it and it went in. But like that moment was when I realized I have a very intense fear of failure. But I also have a very intense drive for perfection, which is probably why I'm afraid of failure, because they pretty much go hand in hand. And when I started mountaineering, I questioned everything, absolutely everything. I questioned if I was good enough to do something. I questioned why I was doing it. I questioned if I would make good decisions, like that this is a spot on a rope. Someone else is better than me can have this spot. Like this is not, I'm taking up someone else's space and I need to not be here. And just a lot of inferiority and imposter syndrome. And this is like just piled on over years. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I work really hard. And when like that seeking validation is also a component, like those three things: fear of failure, drive for perfection, and seeking validation. Whoa. Talk about a mess, right? She needs therapy. Yes. I also need Jesus. So I need both. And the mountains are not therapy, but the mountains have brought people into my life, or I should say me into their lives, to be completely honest, who have encouraged me, who have bolstered me, who have pushed me forward, and in ways that only a brother in Christ, only a sister in Christ. Like I said a little earlier about how like you really can't understand it if you haven't been there. And that's the thing about, like, I love my husband. He hasn't been in the nitty-gritty, dark, scary, steep mountain stuff with me. That doesn't mean that he can't speak into my life, but in some of these specific areas, it's got to be somebody who's been there. And last year in March, I got to go teach an intro to mountaineering course. And it was kind of last minute. The instructor needed to not teach it. And it was at a Christian adventure camp that my family volunteers at. We like alternate volunteering one summer and attending the next summer. And we just love it. It's called Camp Bighorn. It's out in western Montana. And they do a gap year program and they do the coolest stuff. Like, I wish I was young enough to go to Journey, and I'm not, but it's super awesome. And they use adventure as a way for discipleship. And they needed someone to teach intro to mountaineering. I was like, I can do that. So I was with some of my mountain brothers and sisters right before I left, and I started the beginnings of a panic attack. Like, literally, I could look at my watch and I could see my heart rate going up. Like, whoa, I'm getting short of breath. Like, what's happening? And I've had a full-blown panic attack before, and it's not fun. And one of my mountain brothers, his name's Josh, he looked at me from across the room. We were doing we were actually writing cards. This is so cool. We were writing cards to people, or to leaders of the local partners that Atlas Free supports, and thanking them for their tireless work. It was a really cool opportunity to do that. But I couldn't write, and then I couldn't breathe. And then I look and I see that my heart rate is climbing and I'm panicking, and I don't know why. And he looks at me, he's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "No." And I went outside, and I asked him to follow me out. And another one of my mountain brothers was outside. His name's Dan. And I said, I know I'm having a panic attack. I can't teach this course. I can't do it. And I just spiraled. All the I can'ts. I'm not qualified. I'm not this. I'm not that. And these two brothers of mine, not actual brothers, but brothers who back in 2021 said, "Hey, we're going to be on Baker for 5 days and do 2 separate climbs. You want to join? Come learn with us. Come see if you really like this the way you think you like it." In 2023, "Hey, you really should lead a climb this year. You don't need us. You really should lead a climb," and walked me through it ahead of time. 2024, "You really should lead a roped climb. Why haven't you led a roped climb yet?" Wait, what? It's like, here are very accomplished, very safety focused in the mountains and in life men, but who have this focus on the Lord and how people are gifted and can see it and call it out in them. And that's who I'm out on this back porch of this house in Suncadia panicking with. Dan doesn't even stop grilling burgers. He's just like doing his thing. And I'm like trying to breathe. But then Josh, I'm like, "But Josh, I sent you my outline, and I sent you my this." And he goes, "I literally had no feedback. I had nothing that I needed to correct. You have it all. You're prepared for this. There's a reason God wants you to go there. And there's a reason that like you're feeling like you shouldn't go. Like that's not God." And so to have someone in that was the exact right person for me to be with in that moment. And then all my other like adventure brothers and sisters are right inside. And I go inside after I've calmed down a little bit, and they pray. I share what I'm like scared of, and they pray for me right then. And I went, had a blast. So fun. I think I said in my bio, my like big values are challenge, hospitality, and like education. I got to do all of that and just really step into how God made me. And I learned how much fun I have doing it. And then this year to now feel confident enough, again, with the encouragement of my mountain brother. I mean, I would panic text Josh, "Are you really sure that I should lead a Rainier climb?" And then he's so funny because he knows I'm a coach. He goes, "Coaches, we don't really coach ourselves well, do we?" I'm like, we know the things, but we don't do that. So really the valley of that fear of failure, that drive for perfection, that looking for validation in the wrong places, to have joined a community of people who will speak the truth against those things is really the victory that the Lord has given me. And then the gift of experiencing said climb just was such a full circle. And it doesn't mean it's my last climb, I don't feel like I've arrived. I always feel like I want to learn, which is probably the other thing I love, is I love the learning piece and the I go to the stadium, the public stadium that's open during the day, and my kids will play kickball or baseball on the other end, and I will haul around the football sleds with my crevasse rescue setups. I love that. But what I love the most is the connection with people who also desire to be how God made them to be. And that's climbing mountains, and that's raising money to fight exploitation, and just I don't feel the need to walk around and say, "Did you hear I summited Rainier last week?" Like, I'd rather share the stories of when we're almost to the top and I get on a radio and I say, "Remember that amazing story of the rescue that just happened on Friday night? Remember how many women were rescued from that particular spot? Count that number for your next number of steps." I love getting to do that. And to be with people who really care about that. So yeah, I think that's probably my.
I love it. Oh, that was funny. You're like, I think that.
The segue was gone. I had another thing, but then just.
That's okay. That's okay. No, I feel like you summed that up so good, and just, all the feelings of, just how you've been. You even started with a story of, just kind of where that came from and how you noticed that at a young age, and just how being in a community of people can really change all of that. And that's the real victory, is just being around people that love the Lord and, support you, speak truth in your life, and all of that. Man, you summed it all up. I don't even really have any questions for you on that front. I feel like you laid it all out there for us.
I have a question for you.
For me?
When are you going to go climbing?
On the next one, whatever the next one is. I would, though, you shared about this fear of failure, this intense drive for perfection and seeking validation in, kind of, I would say almost a lot of times what I heard was you're seeking validation in your own doing of like, I can do this thing. I would love for you to just like speak a word of encouragement, or, just like practical things for people who maybe are of that same mindset.
Ooh. I'm still learning. So like, I have not arrived by any means.
Hey, that's okay.
I actually heard, it was part of a sermon, and I don't remember who said it, but he was talking about if you don't ever have to look up, like if your goal is here, you're looking right at it, it's at your level. But if you have to look up, like that's the posture God invites us into. And if I'm doing something outside of my capability, I can't strive and achieve it. I have to rely on him. I have to have his help. And that's not to say that the everyday and how I parent, and I pray a lot when I parent, not gonna lie. That's not to say that in the everyday, there aren't these big goals where you don't need to look to the Lord. But especially for those of us that have these, I mean, I never even had a goal of climbing Rainier, to be completely honest. And now I've climbed it twice and led it once. And just that idea of, God, what do you have for me? How do you want me to do my end of the prep? And then, okay, I've identified what that is. I've done my end of the prep. Okay, Lord, now I'm relying on you for the rest of it. Show me the next step. Because I do think that he wants us to use our talents and our giftings to serve him within our own power to a point. But not forget, A, he's the one who gave it to us. B, he wants us to rely on him, because when we invite him, when we make the decision to invite him to be part of that, I think that brings him so much joy. And obviously, he's going to be in it no matter what. But whether or not we're willing to acknowledge that we need him, then we acknowledge his role in our successes, in our failures, in our in-betweens. I have experienced that is what God wants for us. And I've seen it in other people's lives. I've seen it in my life. And I'm so grateful to be in it now that I somewhat understand what it means to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said, you have to identify what the goal is. You have to do your part in preparing, but you also have to leave space for God to do the rest and invite him into that process. And, it's not saying, oh, just trust God and don't prepare. Like, no, we still need to do our part. You know what I mean? But we do need to leave room for God to work and to fill the gaps in the places that we can't. And yeah, it's so good. I just think often, like, I have a, me and you are very similar. Our stories are very similar. College athletes, intense fear of failure, seeking validation, all the things. I don't know if I have an intense drive for perfection, but because I'm not a perfectionist, I'm just a get it done. And it's done, like, kind of doesn't matter how it gets done. Like, sometimes it's just like the fact that it does get done. But one thing that I've always said to people, because I've failed a lot in my life, and I've taken chances, and I've taken just done things where people are like, how did you, whatever. And I just never think I failed. I've just figured out something I don't like, or I figured out a way it doesn't work, or, like I've just learned different ways. And so, it's not a, oh, you fail and you don't try again. It's like, no, I just figured out a way to do it better next time. And, I think it's part of learning anything in life. Like, if you don't try, you're never gonna learn, kind of deal. So
absolutely.
Man, well, I feel like we could chat all day, forever and ever, and never. We'll just have to call each other after this. But I would love for you to kind of just leave the listeners with where they can find you, where they can find out more about Climb for Captives, and whatever else you want to share in the realm of that.
I have two Instagram accounts. One of them is outward facing, so that's probably the best one. And it's at Your Adventure Mentor. Just all one thing, no dashes or anything. And that's probably just the best place to go, because I have things linked. There is a Climb for Captives Instagram account. It's not super active at the moment. So I would say just go to Your Adventure Mentor. And yeah, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can also, if you wanted to, you could email me, youradventurementor@gmail.com. And yeah, I would love to talk to you if the mountains, especially climbing them, not looking at them, if the mountains are your gig and you want to do something you love to fight something you hate, aka fundraise to fight trafficking and exploitation, it'd be neat to connect with you. And yeah. Okay, side note. You talked about failure being, because I thought of this just now. Oh, I found a new way to do something. I love that, because I just won't do the thing if I don't think I'll be successful at it, even mildly, I won't even do it. Like, no, wrong attitude, Rachel. Hop in and try it. And the crazy thing about that is So part of Climb for Captives is that you fundraise. And I also have fundraised for Freedom Hikes as well, which is the same thing, but a different activity. And since 2019, I have never not hit a goal fundraising wise. I can't make that happen. That's the Lord. And the fact that people continue to see, oh, you're doing that thing again? Okay. I want to support that again. What? Really? I mean, and my friend Trisha, she has shared that somebody donated to her campaign after 2 years of watching her do it. And the gal literally was like, I just want to see if you're actually committed. Like, what?
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, I share that to say, even when I'm scared to try something, if I'm like finally obedient and I make the goal a little bigger, or I'm finally obedient and I create another fundraising page, and somehow God brings people to fill it up.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And it's definitely well out of my power because like I can't fund it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rachel, so much just for sharing. And like I said, I feel like we have a lot of the same characteristics. So I know I can relate, and I know that other people will too, because I feel like this is something that fear of failure, that drive for perfection, seeking validation is so common, especially in today's world, that I know that this is going to be beneficial. So I just thank you so much for being here and for sharing. I know that this was a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but I know that God's going to honor it. So thank you so much. And I've had so much fun chatting with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of My Valley, His Victory. If you or someone you know are interested in being on this podcast, please email myvalleyhisvictory@gmail.com.